With all of the climate change talk that's going on at the moment, I find it interesting where I am at the moment in the Worcestershire. If you go back to the previous ice age, like 15,000 years ago, a lot of England was glacial. But then just south to sort of the south of, I guess, Oxford area, Worcester area, we were outside of the glacial sheet. So the landscape here would not have been a whole lot different to what it would have looked like 15,000 years ago. But around 10,000 years ago, when the last ice age ended and the world started heating up, not because of human pollution or CO2 emissions, anything like that, it's just natural climate change due to the position of the planets, etc. But around 10,000, 5,000 years ago, we then became a period of warmth that would have been much higher than it is now. So it would have been more tropical, maybe like southern Europe or northern Africa kind of temperatures. And that was up to about 5,000 years ago. But around here, the landscape around that time, 5,000 years ago, would have been almost identical to what it is now. But instead of cows and sheep wandering around, there would have been woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, red deer, hyenas, those sort of animals would have been all around here living wild. And in this area, about in the 1980s, they found a woolly mammoth skeleton with 3 babies, and they believed that died around 5,000 years ago. So it's quite an interesting part of the country we're here in Worcester. I find it interesting anyway. Climate change is very natural, it happens all the time, and there's probably very little we could do about it. And yeah, beautiful part of the country here in Worcester. Imagine being here 5,000 years ago. Instead of sheep, you might have bumped into a woolly mammoth. This river here, which runs down the bottom of my garden just runs down there. This rubble here, that's the remains of an old bridge. Let's have a look. So these bits here, all part of the old bridge, and you can see some of the old wooden beams that were used in the bridge. That's the part of the bridge that fell down. And this bridge, which ran across the river here, used to be here. It was a major crossing point into the Middle Ages. And I'm actually not sure on the exact date it shut down, but where the estate is, where I live, there used to be, there used to be a village here. So where you used to get the crossing, this was a really key crossing point over this river. So there was always a lot of activity going on. So where I live, my garden, where I live, so in my garden there is remains of old houses. They were made of wood and straw, so there's very little remaining there, but there are the flat spots, and you can see on the ground the sort of foundations of where they would have been dug in, and there are some old remains of wooden fireplaces that would have been inside the wood and straw buildings. So once this crossing point came down, once this point of communication, there was no need for the village to be there. This sort of economy around here, this crossing point and up into the county of Worcestershire, the whole economy around here would have shut down, and all that remained was an old, big old manor house, which the current owners of the manor house renovated 20 years ago. And yeah, that's where we are now. So communication points, whether it's the internet, roads, river crossings, there's always economic activity around crossing points. And if that traffic stops or dries up or something changes, so if nobody no longer needs crossing points, or same with the internet, you've got communication around certain sites, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where people flock or congregate to spend time and cross and communicate, you get businesses building up. Yeah, interesting. Same stuff, whether it's the internet, roads, rivers, telephone, mail, railroads. Yeah, history. I guess we're seeing something akin to this at the moment, with transport costs are going up since COVID, since shipping costs going up, the world is kind of shut down, countries' borders are closing up and trade is slowing down. What happens then is that economies slow down, prices of things go up, and if that trade and those river crossings or ocean crossings, transport, communications between economic hubs are not maintained, then prices of everything go up, and if it's not re-established eventually, like this bridge, it collapses. I find the economics in the history of the economics and how countries, communities grow and prosper, and what makes these communities grow and prosper: infrastructure, communication, trade. And by looking back at history, you can learn lessons. So this is where I live, in Worcester, and they're my neighbours. Not really Mammoths,